I just have like a personal drive to not be forgotten. Some philosophies are like, well, like a score is good if like you don't even notice it, and which is fine, but like why would you want to be forgotten?
All right, everybody, we are here for the 5th TILè Road to Feature podcast. My name is Jordan.
I'm Brenda.
And today we have Jarvis Nguyen with us over here to speak about all the things that he's doing at UC Berkeley, being a producer, a composer. I'm so excited to learn more about your story. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Awesome. So if you would like to just start it off by letting us know a little bit about your, like did you always know you wanted to be a filmmaker?
Absolutely not. So I'll start with this actually. So I am a biology major. The proper name at Berkeley is molecular and cell biology. It's too fancy for me. But no, I never did film before high school. I mean, school projects and stuff, having to do like a random video. But so I'm a senior actually right now.
Okay.
And for me, my freshman year was COVID, so it was all online. And I think I was just like looking for friends essentially, and we had this like club rush thing, Club Bay online, and then I saw this film club just like present, and I was like, oh, a film club, that's interesting. I was like, a film club is like kind of part of like the stereotypical American experience, right? Like,
Typical American experience.
something like that. I mean, I grew up in the Bay. I grew up in Milpitas, like born and raised. But like, I never film was not a part of my high school. I was a band kid actually. I was a tuba player, and still kind of am a tuba player. But then I saw this film club, and I was like, oh, I did literally just start composing. I've like been composing for upwards of 3 years now, and I was like, okay, I might be a good chance for me to like try composing, see if like film is interesting. I wasn't really thinking about like joining like my major specific clubs, like science clubs, to get like better things on my resume or something like that.
Oh, and then so that connected you, and so you joined the group, and then what happened?
So I joined a group, and essentially, during COVID, the only thing I could do was composing, and I actually started composing with just the notes. And I'm like, well, you can't like do film score with just the notes. So I was like, I had to force myself to learn sound design, and so go through my freshman year, all during COVID, come in person my sophomore year, I had to start picking up sound because I like tangentially understood sound because I mean that's just related to music, and so I picked up sound, and then over the course of like the past 2 years in person, I also like picked up logistics work. So a lot of producing, like making spreadsheets, doing calls. It's been like
You're like a hard worker. You're definitely top notch. You're definitely in the 1%, huh? Would you say?
No.
So well-rounded.
You don't know. You probably are.
I'm definitely not much of a studier.
How are you? Well, I guess, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but how are your grades?
My grades? They're okay. I'm not struggling per se. Okay.
I'd say for any film set though, you'd be so valuable though, because all the knowledge and the experience you would bring. So for Overgrown, what did you mention were your roles?
So for Overgrown, I was first AD, producer, production sound, composer, and technically I wrote the original script of Overgrown.
Okay. Well, that was the one that I did get the chance to watch, and because there's not much speaking at all.
There's no speaking at all.
Yeah. I feel like the sound design of it was so impactful to get the emotion that would hit you, included in like all the specific lighting shots too. So I think it was really, really well put together.
Thank you.
And I'm really impressed by it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you, not for Overgrown, but you choreographed for Lansing, right?
Yes.
Oh.
So, I mean, I did all the other roles, and then I did Overgrown. And then plus more on Land's End, essentially.
Oh,
which is
no.
the feature film.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I know. That's a lot.
No, but it came out really great though.
Thank you,
It
thank
came out
you.
really awesome. Do you feel like, I guess if we're gonna go to the feature route, I mean, there had to be moments when you thought like, this is not gonna work, or did you ever have that, or?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, well, so actually, I'll say this. I was technically the first crew member. So Alan actually came up with the idea back in December, and he started like writing synopsis, and then in January I was making breakfast, and then he like messages me, and he's like, hey, are you like available for a call? And I'm like, I see this message, and I haven't seen Alan forever. Like when I first joined the club, he was a senior, and so come in person, he was just gone. Like, I mean, I haven't seen him forever. I like messaged him a couple times here and there, but I haven't seen him forever. And he's like, yo, I'm thinking of doing a feature film. And I was like, okay. Well, okay. I mean, I've never done a feature film. I don't know what you're telling us. He was like, I was hoping you could compose. I'm like, I mean, sure, I'll compose. And come down the line, like April and May comes down. I had to do Overgrown. Alan helps out on set because I asked him to like help ride, give some rides because, you know, students, we don't have cars, we need transportation. Yeah. And I was producing for Overgrown like very heavily. It was, I mean, we'll get there when we get there, but it was probably, I would argue, in terms of like Cap Club films, it's probably, outside of the feature film, is the most logistically complex thing. And so Alan, who saw that, texted me one day and he was like, dude, I'm not gonna sleep tonight unless you produce for me. And I remember he sent me the script, 127 pages, and I was like, we only have 2 months to shoot, and only the weekends too. And so that's like,
wow, only the weekends?
Yeah, so like 16 days. And it was like for 127 pages, which did get reduced to 107, but I looked at the page number and I was like, this is like not gonna happen.
How much time did you have to plan?
So actually, I said no to producing first. It's because I looked at the whole logistics of things. And I was like, it's not gonna happen. Like, I don't want to be producer, and it just doesn't happen. And like, I was like, I mean, there was another producer like signed on, but Overgrown was still the most complex thing that anyone had ever worked on. And me and Alan like understood that if someone had not worked on Overgrown, then they wouldn't be able to do like Land's End, that's just what it is. And eventually, I actually didn't fully read the script, but eventually 2 weeks later, I fully read the script, and then Alan, he like knew, somehow, some way, he like knew I finished reading the script, and he called me right when I finished. He was like, hey, did you finish reading the script? And I said, yes. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, it's pretty good, but like, I don't know how it's gonna happen. And he's like, okay, let's look at this first day. The first day that like him and like the other producer made this like shooting schedule, all the shots. And I like looked at the scenes. It was like 12 scenes. And we had, by my calculations, like based on the number of shots, that should have taken 18 hours to do all of it, no breaks, just straight through. I looked at the schedule, we had 12. And I was like, this is not gonna happen.
You're like no.
But like, yeah. I checked the schedule, but it's the only way it could have happened. It would absolutely have to do all of that in that like day. And so I was like, okay, yes, sure, I'll be your producer, like, because this is like, it's like kind of possible, but it's not like less than 5% chance of being like even finishing. And I mean, that was my first doubt. Yeah. And then he shared me with the Google Drive, like with all like material so far. I looked at everything, and I'm like, this is 2 weeks before production starts, by the way. And I'm like, where's this? There's nothing here. There's no art has been collected. There's no shot list. I'm like, no. Where's everything? Production starts in 2 weeks. And so I was like, okay, art, where's your stuff? Like, it's 2 weeks. Like, and they have made a plan, but they haven't gotten anything. And I'm like, okay, here's your plan. Deadlines now. Shot list now, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, first day comes. I have a team meeting. It turns out team meetings aren't like a normal thing for student film. Like first ADs having like team meetings at the beginning of like shoot days, and literally I had a meeting and right on the spot, the first thing I said, I was like, this is impossible. But then the second thing I told him was basically just like etiquette. And I was like, if I ask you a question, you have to say yes. It's because, and basically I decided that I had to run it like a military, essentially, or else it wasn't gonna happen.
And that's how you made it through?
Yeah, that's essentially how I made it through.
Also with a good group of people if they're able to put, so did that 18-hour day really turn into a 12-hour day and you
12.
got all the shots that you needed?
12. It was hard because I had to micromanage so extensively. Because I remember making the shot by shot schedule like the night before, and it was like, okay, like literally I can't just go up to the director, Alan, and be like, you have 5 minutes. I had to yell 5 minutes. And occasionally I would go up to makeup people or like wardrobe and I'm like, can you tell me your ETA on this? And they're like, 5 minutes.
It always takes longer than
And I was like,
5.
can you make it 3? And that's why I told every single time someone told me 5 minutes, I would be 3. 10, give me 7. And like, and it had to happen like no matter what. And then somebody finished.
So you got it through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's impressive. Now, do you think that came naturally to you, or do you think that you had to pull at something else from yourself in order to be that military guy?
It kind of came naturally just because, I sort of used to military-esque instruction because I used to do this thing called drum corps, which is essentially like professional marching band, and they run that like the military. Like absolutely, it's a lot of like the instructors, they're teaching something and they're like, does that make sense? And everyone's like has to say yes at the like band.
Like the band, like your band, military, kind of similar things? Okay.
And I was like, okay, I mean, if I can at least instill this type of like etiquette, like there's at least some leeway for getting this film finished. And you know, I did that from day one because I understood like standards are things you have to set from day one and not like later, or else you'll bring it up and then you're like, no one's really doing it, and you're just like, oh, this is a bad move or something.
Yeah.
I was also lucky because I had Steven who worked on Overgrown, and I also had our second AC, Taylor, who also worked on Overgrown, and we took ourselves rather seriously on that set, and so we were very like strict with like etiquette and like calls, and like the first AD was always like
awesome,
pretty like strict, and so they understood etiquette, they understood protocol. The challenge was getting other people used to protocol. What was also kind of lucky with them being people I didn't know as well was that like they just took me for my word. If they already knew me as like friends, it was kind of hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Entonces, ¿qué pasa si ganas?
¿La competencia? No sé.
¿Qué no ya te había dicho que eras suficiente con eso de escribir?
You have until we close to
Que
make.
tienes un trabajo de verdad, papi. No te distraigas.
All my friends tell me how talented you are, hon, with your artwork and your sketches and your colors.
Going for art, for God's sake. Okay, it's art.
You ever think it's a good thing you didn't have parents growing up? You could just do your own thing, you know?
I don't know what to say.
No, that's okay. You don't have to say anything.
넌 진짜 완전 놈이라니까? 아니 내 친구들은 다 네가 무슨 신비주의 천재인 줄 알아.
다른 애들은 부모님 등살에 못 이겨서 억지로들 하는데 너는 그렇게 피아노 치겠다고 부모님을 설득했다면서?
그렇게 일말의 진지함도 없이 안일하게 연주할 거면 편을 당장 때려치우고 그냥 내 말대로 의대나 가!
It's pretty special. This place.
Can you tell us what does a producer do?
logistics.
The
Just
logistics.
straight logistics.
So logistics in terms of getting to and from location, logistics in terms of who needs to be on set, logistics in terms of the shot list. Like, is it all that or more?
So I also took the role of first AD, and while first AD and producer are very similar, producer generally, at least the way I understand it, is that producer looks at the production as a whole, and so they schedule things like schedule like actors and their shoots and their scenes on certain days, and with collaboration with the first AD. But I was the first AD. But first AD handles stuff on the set. With the shot by shot schedule is a first AD job. But as producer, I also had to like figure out transportation, figure out the nearest hospitals, make sure people are safe, figure out food for a certain day, and just like also gathering crew. Essentially, they're not. Every person who's on crew at the end of the production was there from the beginning. It's because there were people I like nabbed essentially that were in the area. I was like, hey, I need you for this. Can you come here? Awesome. And then they ended up being like amazing like audition. I pretty much chalked that up to like my observational skills. I think I'm pretty good at like observing people and understanding people's traits. And like strengths and weaknesses, and like putting them like sort of like in the right position that they should be.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I personally, I tried to do first AD as well, but to me, because usually I'm PA or I'm doing taking behind the scenes footage. What advice would you give to a person who is doing that position, like doing the first AD for the first time? What kind of skills would they need to bring? What kind of mindset should they have so that the rest of the film, the rest of the shoot that day goes well?
I think.
I feel like discipline, right? Like you yourself.
Absolutely discipline. I think if you can't be like serious to yourself about like the capabilities of this production on this day, then like how can you expect other people to? If it's the first time, I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where you just need like experience upon unexperience, because you have to make like judgment calls like on the spot. Like a light broke, what do you do? Like production's like 3 hours behind schedule. Like what do you do? Right. Because you have to make those decisions on the spot.
For first AD.
Absolutely, yeah. And I would say like a lot of critical thinking skills, and just like. I think what things for what you think about is like first off, safety is a must. Like that's a guarantee.
Right.
And then secondly, like I think one thing that confuses people with, at least on student filmmakers, is that they assume first AD is a creative role, which like it can be if you play it right, but it's inherently a logistics role, and I think some people come to set thinking that like they have this power, like this, like I'm the boss. You're not the boss. I mean, yes, like it is in terms of people who can call like the set their set. Like as first AD, I can call this my set technically. Director can call it my set, but it's not like really my set. It's like these are people, and like they have needs, they have wants. They need to sleep, they need to eat, but you also have to be able to drive them enough to like want to do more. Like obviously you shouldn't be like sacrificing taking care of yourself, but like you want to sort of inspire people to be able to do that. And of course people need to be like serious about it, and like that's just like the nature of like film and like arts in general. It's a collaborative community, collaborative groups.
Especially when there's no money involved.
Absolutely, it's hard.
Did anybody get paid?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. I think budget overall was under 5,000.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Great work, guys. Great work.
Thank you.
It's crazy.
So I know that you already are able to provide a lot of like skills to the set, but is there anything that you haven't done yet that you are looking forward to doing? In terms of like maybe doing the editing one day, or something different that you haven't done on set before?
I think one thing I haven't done is be more involved with arts, at least creatively. Honestly, I'm always yelling at art. I haven't really formally edited, but I advise editing a lot. Like for example, I advise the ending on Land's End to be like, this is a funny story, but like Alan and me had just watched Oppenheimer, which is super fast, edit like super fast, and then literally the first scene that he edits, it's like it was like unwatchable, and I was like, Alan, stop. this like cut on here, and like we were going for a more musical type of editing, more rhythmic. But anyway, arts. It's just because like I think art, production design, like obviously like student film, you can tell like camera work, like other technical aspects. But production design like absolutely like makes or breaks most productions.
Yeah.
Like Overgrown production design, if like the wardrobes are not good, then like it's bad. Yeah. But I would say one thing that student filmmakers tend to not be able to capitalize on production design, and that's just normally because they tend to write like student stories, more emotional drama stories, which is fine. But they tend to use spaces as is. But there's ways to move them around so you can get like better help the cinematography. Like you can get frames within frames, or you can make like a frame less cluttered, or a frame like more like leading lines. You can create leading lines with just like trash on the ground. It doesn't have to be just trash. That's riddle. It's like they can lead somewhere.
Right.
I've like loosely like directed some of that on.
So art, you mean production design?
Production design, yeah.
Like that's what you mean by art. You wanna dabble in the production design.
Yeah.
Because composing is, and we haven't even touched on the composing side of things. You know, the producing and the AD side we've touched on, but we definitely have to touch on that the string and then the keys that you play with. But you want to get into production design.
Not as my main thing, but I think, but it's like I think it's the main like category of like film set like roles that I've like not touched like at all.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what's your priority in terms of like when you see a scene and you want to add the music tracks on there? Like when you compose, do you go off of like like how does that come out? Like I try so hard so many times, and I feel like the scene is so sad, but my melody that I came up with is so happy and it's so it's lovely, but no, that's not what I'm going for. So I feel like it's based off emotion for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will say this, I've had people in the past ask me like for advice on composing, and my answer for that, I mean, I will not mentor people just because my way of composing is way too robust. It's because here's the main thing philosophy I act under when composing. I absolutely refuse to be forgotten, which is very, I'd say, is cussing it loud.
I don't care.
It is very damning because some philosophies are like, well, like a score is good if like you don't even notice it, and which is fine, but like why would you want to be forgotten? And that's just my personal philosophy. I don't like to be someone who's forgotten, and this just applies to music. But of course, like if a scene is more subtle, then you should be more subtle. But I always like aim to be like something like rememberable somehow. It's the melody or like the texture or something. I'm always like aiming to not like to be at the forefront. And so a lot of my music I've made is like right in your face. Land's End, right in your face. Overgrown, not as in your face, it's more subtle, but like a lot of it is like right there.
Yeah, but that's an intro too. That's like a pilot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so and you did all Land's End. You composed the whole theme for Land's End. How long did that take you afterwards?
I had 1 month.
1 month, okay.
Absolutely 1 month.
Which is good for you think?
That's horrible.
Yeah.
1 month was, because we finished shooting end of July. And then the screening was beginning of September.
Oh.
So we had like no editing. Some editing and like some like couple scenes that like I was like really excited to edit. But literally all the editing, all the post-production, all the post-production sound and composing happened right in Alan's apartment.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys working on that?
the whole time. Yeah. We didn't have a choice. It's just like we're on a timeline, and like it was hard because I never composed for a feature, right? Like shorts are they're their own thing, right? Like, but like for a feature, and there's like 3 different characters with like 3 different like concepts in general. It's just like you really run out of creativity like super fast.
So for the composition, like I definitely, you know, like in the future, what I see this podcast is actually people like taking us into like their den or where they work at and showing us like how they did it and what they thought about. But what sort of themes did you try to pull off of when you thought about Lens, and like what instruments did you think would have that flow, and did it work out initially?
So I luckily had some ideas that Al had already made. The main theme for Yoon, he plays the piano thing at like the beginning of his like.
Is he really playing the piano, or is that you?
No, that's Alan. I can't play the piano.
Okay. Oh, that's Alan who did the piano.
Alan plays piano. That's the close with the hands. It's Alan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Director slash hand model.
Yeah.
Okay.
But luckily he had some like themes and like melodies figured out already, and like some ideas. And I think, and he did like have like sort of like a template of sorts. It's like you want to be more mature, more like orchestra. And the main thing he'd constantly tell me is that like, I want the music to feel like waves. Like I want this film to feel like waves. Like there's this happening, but then like underneath there's like these waves happening. And I'm like, cool. I don't know. Actually, sure. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, when somebody tells you that, like what does it say? Because I find when I talk to composers, I talk in these abstracts, and then they come back to me and it's like, oh yeah, cool, they got it. But you know, like how does that? When somebody talks to you abstractly, like what is that?
It's very hard. It's very difficult because I mean I really don't know like what they want. I mean they'll give me references, which is something, but I can't. Like I can't like copy the reference, for example. Yeah. I think one thing I was fortunate to be able to work on with Alan was just that. Well, I mean, he actually cannot read sheet music.
He can't read.
He can't read sheet music, but he knows how to play piano. But for Sebastian, actually, for Overgrown, well, I'm very fortunate for him to actually have a music background. So he actually used to play saxophone in like middle school or something, and he does like music production on the side, like makes some of his own music. And so occasionally, like, we'll be going over a track together, and then he'll be like, you know, I'm really like hearing the sound here, and he's like, oh, I'm hearing this like airy riser here. I'm like, okay, I got you, I can do that. Yeah. Or he'll tell me, he's like, oh, can we put a low pass filter over like this one sound, which is like a lot more specific. Yeah, much more specific, much more technical, of course. Yeah. But of course, I understood what that means. Right. And so it is like, for me, I think I've grown so much from Sebastian to compose, just because he's a bit more specific in what he wants, not just in an abstract way, but like he gives me actual like terms to work with. But of course, like, you know, I am a composer. It is my job to interpret feelings into music somehow, but it's still very difficult.
So when that happens, I'm curious, do you send them a bunch of tracks for them to pick out at the end, or like it's one final piece when it ends?
So generally speaking, I'll say this one thing. I absolutely do not like the workflow where I send a track back and forth.
Oh, okay.
And usually it doesn't, you can sometimes do like multiple tracks at once and send it over, but it's just hard for communication. And the way I work with Sebastian is that he's always right there with me when I'm making music, so he sees what I'm doing, like what layer is like kind of weird and like he wants to remove. And same thing, and the same thing with Alan was actually, I like was in his apartment for a month. And he was just right there to tell me if like he didn't like this, for example. Because if I like send a track, like, and it takes like 3 days, it's just like I'm waiting for the entire time. Right. Not really. It's like the main thing that I like strive to achieve is to like remain in flow state essentially, which is like, do you guys know what flow state is?
I played sports growing up.
Yeah.
And I believe that you could catch a flow state and just not know what's going on, but you just produce a magic.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's just like being in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's but you have like getting in the zone is like, it's hard and it's pretty easy to get out of it. Mm-hmm. But again, getting back into it is just really hard. And so you kind of want to be in that like state the entire time you're working.
Gotcha.
And that's why I really like hate the back and forth thing. Mm-hmm. But generally, it's like it's a final track at the end.
Okay. Yeah, and then the communication that you have when you're in person versus waiting, and just the miscommunication that can happen through like text is probably huge as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, and another thing is that like people like will ask like, hey, can you turn down an effect on this, right? Or like, but I don't know how much though. You know, I'll like kind of guess, and it'll maybe sound good to me. But I don't know if it sounds good to director. That's the hardest part. Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha.
Overgrown is a dystopian fable set in a post-apocalyptic alternate universe. Mankind's misuse of an ancient language with the power to manipulate time and space has led to our near extinction, leaving nature to reclaim the waste we left behind. Warfaring tribes are all that remains of humanity now, forced to contend with eldritch horrors released by the ancient tongue. The story of Overgrown follows a group of orphan children from a tribe known as the Silent. These masked acolytes traverse the surface world with one purpose: to travel to the Tower of Babel and utter the phrase of reversal, undoing the apocalypse and restoring order to the planet. The tone of Overgrown could be described as Peter Pan meets Mad Max, with a balance between magical realism and dystopian grittiness. As the Silent journey through luscious green landscapes littered with remnants of humanity, they encounter several terrors, both human and otherworldly.
So for all these sets that you're on, I know that being the first AD and producer, it comes with so many stressful moments, but I'm sure there's also a bunch of fun, non-forgettable BTS moments. Could you please share a few from either Overgrown or Land's End? One that you like, it's so funny, everyone just cracks up and stops what they're doing. We have a bunch of those moments too.
Let's see. Give me a second. I think actually on Land's End, we were fortunate enough to, again, Steve and I should talk about this. I find this local in Vacaville who provided like his like roadway essentially. And he like owns a farm or something. His name is John, but I have no idea what his last name is. I've texted him and asked him before to get it on the credits because, you know, special things. He was like, that's fine. It's because something about Vacaville, people are very chill, but they also keep to themselves a lot. And so I will think that like, I will always remember John as the only John that I know. Same thing with everyone else, because other people have met John, very nice guy, but he never gave us his last name. Yeah. Even though we asked. That's awesome. Yeah.
So if we say the credits, it's just gonna say John.
Oh, that's cool. Just one line is John. But like, it could be John anything.
Wow.
Yeah. I think another, I mean, it was funny, but it was also horrific. So first day we were in Vacaville. This is actually funny to me. Yeah. Because so Vacaville, I always knew it was gonna be hot, like absolutely hot. I was kind of used to the heat with drum corps because I would travel the country and like be in different places, different climates. And there was this one time I was in Arizona, 120 degree heat, 30% humidity. It's like, I mean, that's just what it is. And I played the heaviest instrument like in the entire like group, so I was like, I'm kind of used to it. But I knew it was hot. I understood that there was like, risk of heat stroke, right? And literally the first day we were in Vacaville was also the first day we did the rain stuff. And it was 110 degrees. And I've been telling people every single weekend, like after every debrief, I'm like, Vacaville in 4 weeks, next week, Vacaville 3 weeks, Vacaville 2 weeks, 1 week, etc., etc. I'm like, start going to the gym, start getting more sun, and come us being on site, 110 degrees, people are like boiling.
Yeah.
I'm looking around, I'm like, it's nice. it's warm. It's nice and warm. It wasn't like, I mean, honestly, I was still sweating, but it wasn't at 120 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That was way worse.
Mm-hmm.
But like this was like,
Do this, you can manage.
You can manage.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, another thing with first ADs is that like you absolutely have to take care of yourself, because you absolutely cannot like collapse.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone collapses and you're collapsed, and like people don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are like the focal point for like anything that goes wrong, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, killing it. Yeah, so tell us, like, so you, I think we covered this a little bit, but you know, producer, first AD, composer, and then are you moving more towards the composing route, would you say? Or you said the organizing is a lot, or do you find joy in both? Or?
So I think I've somehow found myself doing more logistics work somehow. Mm-hmm. Like I think Overgrown, I mean, I had been doing like semi-producing work on like other like films before Overgrown. That's just because the nature of student film is just like, it's very freeform. People like do whatever. It's not like restrictive roles, for example. Overgrown was the first time I would like absolutely producer, absolutely first AD. I wasn't the only one, of course. There were other people that were on a logistics team, but it was like absolutely my title. It was absolutely my job to like make the call sheets, absolutely my job to figure out transportation. And then suddenly I'm producer for AD again, and then suddenly I'm like a big logistics guy for some reason. I think I have found, I mean, doing the actual work is completely stressful. You know, making calls and like at 3 a.m. in the morning, God forbid.
Oh Lord.
But I think what's nice is just like you see a finished product and then like people clap, and it's like you realize, oh, you set up all this in like a certain sense.
Yeah.
I think
on stage too.
Oh yeah, that was
awesome.
That was pretty nice. I'm a performer at heart. That's just what it is. I was a dancer, played tuba, and being on a stage was like brought back so many memories, I think.
That was dope. And you said be dressed up and stuff too. Like, it's nice.
As the choreographer for Lands and Right, were you in charge of finding your own dancers to add to the scene, or did people audition to be in that scene?
So here's actually how the dance scene in Lands and works. So there's actually one main dance scene. Essentially, there's a montage where one main character, which is Hugo, played by Fernando Sebastian Madraz, and another character who is his girlfriend named Liliana, played by Gabrielle Wright. And they're essentially, it's like at the sunset, and they're playing around. It's just them two, but the one thing that Alan like absolutely wanted was this like backlit sunset shot. So essentially, the sun is setting in the background, and then you see silhouettes of the two characters like dancing through like this super wide shot. So I was the only one on crew who had dance experience, and me and Alan had tried to figure out how to some type of like waltz. Like only I knew how to do a waltz. Alan was trying to figure out some other stuff, like trying to make his way around. I was like, this is not working, dude. And literally, we had 3 hours before the sun set for me to actually teach the two characters some type of choreo and then have them like nail it somehow. And
so no prep before?
No prep before. We tried.
It was that day?
It was that day. Because we tried. I actually tried to get rehearsals.
In 110 degrees? Was that the 110 degree day?
It's more like 100. that was a different
A little bit better. A little bit better.
But it was, I think, it was just like it was difficult because there's so many people. This is just me who, I mean, I'm just like a dancer, and so I get like frustrated when I see other people who are not dancers like put their hands on. So that's just what it is. And you know, he's one of the actors, Gabrielle, who plays Leon again. She actually was a dancer, so she had experience, which was great. The only problem was that Fernando playing Hugo didn't, and so it was a lot of like the other people like Alan and just be like, make sure you like move this way or something, move this faster, and then I was like getting super mad. It was hot. I was like frustrated. And I was like, Gretchen, who's our producer, she comes up to me and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "This is not how you teach dance." And then she was like, "Well, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece." I'm like, I know, but this is not. But I'm not trying to make it a masterpiece. I'm just trying to make the learning process smoother. And eventually, lunch comes, and then Alan's like, he's tired and he's about to like give up on the shot because like it's just not working. And he's like, "Okay, Jarvis, you take it over." And I was like, shoot, okay.
Were you kind of like, I don't want to jump in?
I kind of didn't want to jump in because it's just like I have to override like everything like Alan just told them like how to dance like this thing or something, because we kept switching like different styles, different like ways to do this. Like, I mean, the main thing was a waltz. That's just the music was. It's like a 3/4, but it was just so hard for Fernanda, who was never like didn't have any dance experience, to just like learn like something that's actually rather complex for most people, like on the spot. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna start from the bare bones. So like literally, just this is like give up on the movements right now. Just like every count, think about where you're facing. And so I had Fernando just stick his arm out. He was like, okay, count 1, you're facing here. Count 2, you're facing like this 45. Count 3, you're facing here. That's one of the things I was screaming him over. It was just like, where was he at a certain count, like at least like in rotation wise. And eventually, somehow we were actually trying to go towards like this easier choreo, and then suddenly for some reason Fernando just got the harder one out of nowhere. And so he just like gets it, and then the shot starts, and I'm like, okay, clap right now. Like I gotta like start from slow, go like to a faster tempo, and like every like take we have, Alan's like it, and I was like, oh god.
That's awesome. So where do you see yourself in this filmmaking world? You know, in the next like 5 or 10 years or so.
5 to 10 years. To be honest, I don't know. Like I'm a senior now in college, and I see film, and I like one thing about being at Berkeley is that like you get like a massive like imposter syndrome, because you see all these people like they graduate and they're already making like $200,000 somehow. I mean, it's in tech. That's in tech.
Oh yeah.
But like,
I was about to say in film, like
But some other people like go into business, go into office work, consulting, and stuff.
Of course.
It's still 6 figures. But but to me, I'm like, I am a bio major. Technically, I'm supposed to be going off to medicine.
Right.
But I hate biology. Like I'm really tired of hearing that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell every single class. You know. But I think I'd still love to be a part of film somehow. I think if I remove myself from like the creative world, I think somewhere my soul is just gonna die.
Right.
Like one of the things that really like itches me is like, what if 5 to 10 years down the line and I see like the news, and for some reason I just see all my friends that I'm going to like school with right now, they're on TV because they're like really famous filmmakers. I'm like, I could have been there if I just stayed in film.
For real.
But I need money. Like I've never been out of the country. Like, cause, I mean, it's just because of money and like, time.
Yeah.
School, but like I need money.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I at least want some type of baseline, like some type of foundation to at least be able to pursue film. But even then, I'm just like, I feel like I will probably be missing some type of part where like I should be like putting more work into film.
Yeah.
To like get better, and then like one day I could be like on TV.
So you love film?
I
You love film.
I love film.
You gotta love film, though, I guess,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
If you do all the stuff that you've done, I mean, it's a special type of person who can organize people like that. Now, I don't think a lot of people can do the things you did, and then also do the music, and then come in on the dance and choreographer.
that was like a stroke of luck somehow. I don't like occasionally like I remember I used to like I wasn't like a major dancer. I had to learn dance because of marching band and because of drum corps, which involved like some acrobatics. So took a couple ballet classes and stuff. But you know, I expected to just walk away from dance, like walk away from a performer. And do film, which is like still like an amazing art form. It's just not like performance.
Right.
You know, like getting like you just finish your last like whatever move, and like all the audience just stands up and claps for you. I miss that so much. But I got a bit of that back during the screening for Land's End when everyone like clapped, and you know I was luckily someone that people went up to. It's like, oh, nice music and stuff. Like, thank you. Performer's heart. Yeah, that's awesome. So we are coming down to the end of this. I'd love to learn about what motivates you, what inspires you to keep creating, and actually even before we get there, I do want to. Once you graduate, are you able to still be a part of the group, or because you're a graduate now, you can't even be a part of the Berkeley group anymore? So, technically, because I'm not a Berkeley student, I won't be a part of a group, right? That's just not a technical sense. But it's not like I can't like reach out to my friend and be like, I need help with this or something. I'm looking to make this film. I'm 30 years old or something. I'm Capital alumni. I was like, need some help. And I think, actually, Alan he actually founded Cap Club. And so he was an alumni, when he was making a feature film, he was an alumni reaching back to Cap Club crew. But I mean, now he's back in school as an MBA student at Berkeley. And so he is, again,
technically.
part of Cap Club. Something like that. Something like that.
And then, so what inspires you and motivates you to be a part of, you know, the group, or just to create?
To create, I will say this is definitely the opposite of like what Steven and other people say. You know, everyone says people. Of course, like people definitely drive me, but I think for me, like I just have like a personal drive to not be forgotten, and I think that's like for a good amount of people, that's like a shared like insecurity, and that's just like what I that's just an insecurity that I like realize I have. It's just like, I'll die one day. You know, we all will. Yeah. But, you know, being forgotten is like real death.
Making a stamp, putting your stamp on history in a certain way, or is it more of a personal thing, or is it more of a generational thing?
More of a personal thing. But honestly, I think film might be one of those things where it's like one day like maybe I'll get somewhere like higher, and then I'll be like, oh, it's not enough or something like that. There's a good chance that'll probably be me one day if like I ever get there. But again,
have that personality just keep going and keep going. That's good. That's good. Awesome. And where can people find you?
So my Instagram is actually Jarvy, JARVY_NG_YEN. You can follow me and like love to chat. I'm always like looking to talk to more people. I mean, I am an introvert, like a heavy one, but I'm always down to talk to new people who, you know, have an interest in what I do, or just like want to get to know me. You know, I want to get to know other people. I'm like nearing the end of my school days. You know, times to like talk to more people.
Awesome. Well, you've made a new friend in us, so always stay in touch, and we appreciate you for being on the TILÈ Road to Feature podcast. We are out. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.